I've got a do-it-yourself project for you, Rubberband cars. In this lesson, I'm going to show you how to make these out of CDs or DVDs, some pencils, paint stir sticks, foam board, and a few other things. And they're a lot of fun to do. And once you get the supplies, probably can make them in less than an hour. Then you'll be competing against each other, and maybe you'll even be able to beat my distance record. So let's get started. The first thing we need to do is get the foam board cut. So you want to cut one piece that is 5 inches by 8 inches. Now I've already glued on these stir sticks, but you probably won't have done that yet. And then you will take and cut 1.5 inch by 1.5 inch pieces. They don't have to be exact, just something close is all you really need for this one. There's 3, and I've already got one over here. So we've got our 4 hubs. We are going to punch a hole in the center with a pen and push it part way in, not too far, but enough that I can take my pencil and push it into there. So these foam squares are going to hold the pencil on. Grab your eraser here on these cheap round pencils and they just pull right off. Then you can push this in here. And I'm going to do the same thing on the others. And if you do it right, they should be kind of snug. Now you can push them in a little bit more if you want. It doesn't really matter. I need to get the straws now. So I took my jumbo straw and I cut it so that it was just a little bit wider than the base plate here. You can see there. Just pretended to cut. And then this will slide over for one, and then you're going to take these two and cut them so they're just a little bit wider than the stir sticks for the other side. Don't forget to put those on first, or else you'll have to redo it, because we'll be gluing these hubs on the pencils. Alright, you want to make sure these are perpendicular to the pencils, because that's what the CDs will glue onto, and you need to make sure they are as straight as possible. So I glued this on first, like I said. Now I'm going to glue these guys on. Careful not to glue my straw. So put a little bit of glue on the ends, both sides, inside and outside. This will hold those pencils in place. Try not to let the straw touch the hot glue down there. Hot glue has those messy strings of glue. You just can't really help it. So I'm going to try to get those as straight as I can. That looks pretty good. Do the same thing on this side. It's okay if the pencil sticks out, because it's going to go through the CD like that. So you can have a blob of glue and the pencil sticking out a little bit if you want. So that'll take a minute to dry, and then what we'll be doing here is gluing these onto the paint stir stick frame so that we have axles and hubs. I can tell you about the rubber bands while we're letting that dry a little bit. The rubber bands, you're going to take 4 of them and chain them up. So there's one. Just kind of put them through and then pull one end through the loop itself. I like to use 4. One of them kind of hooks it on to the frame on this side, and then the rest stretch and will provide the rubber band power. Okay, now hopefully that's dried enough, and we will glue this on. So I'm going to use a board to set this on just to make it a little bit easier for me. So I'm going to glue it. Oh, it's still a little bit wet. I need to let that dry a bit more. doesn't matter exactly where you put these. I'm going to put them here about. You do want to get them straight across, though. You don't want your wheel to be crooked at all. Then your car will steer itself sideways, and you don't want that. You can see that foam's not quite straight. That's going to cause me some problems. Okay, there's that one, and then this one I do the same thing. I'm going to have it be about in the middle of the where the sticks stick out past the foam board there. These you have to be a little more careful. You want it to be centered as well. Let's see, I got that one glued in there we go. Make sure it spins. Make sure you have a big enough gap here for the rubber band as well. So I maybe could have cut those a little bit shorter to leave more space, but I think we'll be okay. Okay, so now I'm ready to do this thing. So just glue on the square is actually what I need here. I like to have the shiny wheel out, so I'm going to put that like that. Center the pencil in the CD or DVD hole. Like that. Come over here to this side. Okay, we are getting pretty close here. That seems to spin pretty good. This seems to spin pretty good. I think that'll work. Okay, now we've got a rubber band chain, which this guy will go here. Like that, and then I put it over the top so that way it doesn't push down on the axles and stuff, and then it'll wind up on that back axle. So the only thing we have to do left is give these wheels some tires because they need to be able to get better friction so they don't spin out. So take your balloon and cut it here. So that we just have kind of a balloon sleeve, I guess. And this can be a little tricky. I want these on the back wheels because those are the wheels that drive it. So stretch this out first. And then I need to put this over. Well, that won't work there. Let's do it like this. Put this over. This is tricky. It might be a two-person operation, but if I can stretch it over most of it, I can maybe get it. There we go. Now I've got some traction on that side. See if we can do the same over here. There we go. Okay. Now we're ready to test this thing out. Okay, let's go give it a try. I noticed after I glued this that this axle wasn't quite straight. It was a little bit too high on this side, so I cut the glue and then pushed it down just a little bit and taped it. Sometimes that happens if you try to go a little too fast and aren't careful with it. That probably would make it go crooked. So I think this will be straighter here. Let's see what we got. So put it over the top Turn the wheels backward. So it's wound up. Okay, here we go. And 3, 2, 1. Ha ha ha! Beautiful. So that probably went about 20 feet or so, I guess. Not too shabby. So in today's lesson, we learned how to build a rubber band car, which really, these are pretty cool. A couple of tips for you, though. I've found that if it doesn't go straight, it's hard to get it to go very far. So really concentrate on making sure you get the wheels lined up, the axles perpendicular to the body, all of that kind of stuff. Secondly, I found that when you wind the rubber band up a lot, sometimes the wheels still spin because there's so much force on them, even with the balloon traction. So putting a little bit of weight here, and I'll leave it to you to figure out how much, can help it get traction and go a little bit farther. The best I've done with one of these for distance is about 75 feet. So a little bit of homework here for you. The obvious homework is figure out how far you can get yours to go. And leave it in the comments for me because I'd love to hear that. If you want something a little bit more advanced, figure out how fast it's going at its fastest point. There's a couple of ways you can do it. You can do it old school with a tape measure and a stopwatch, or you could use some video and try to figure it out. There's even some apps that'll help you do video analysis if you want. The toughest one is figure out how much power is expended as this rubber band is releasing. I'll give you a hint maybe how you can do that. Check this video out. If you measure the height that that gets to, and you know the mass of it, you can get the potential energy. If you then timed how long it takes to get up to the top, you have a way to figure out power. Now you may need to brush up on power a little bit. You can go back to that power lesson earlier in the course if you want. I love these rubber band cars because they're kind of a summary of a lot of energy ideas that we've talked about in this course. You can use velocity to figure out the kinetic energy. We know that energy is the ability to cause pain. There's energy stored in that rubber band. You can find potential, you can find power. It's kind of a nice summary for you. So I'd love to hear any of your thoughts or any of the things you find out about it. Thanks for watching.